Good morning, dear students. In today's class, we will be studying about theories of selective attention and factors influencing sustained attention. So, let us start with our class. So, there are three basic theories of selective attention. So the first one is filter theory. So filter theory was developed by Broadbent in 1956. According to this theory, many stimuli simultaneously enter our receptors, creating a kind of bottleneck situation. So bottleneck situation is, if you have seen in roads in traffic situation, there are many roads connecting one road, so there is a traffic there. Okay, so that is a bottleneck situation. So what happens, according to this theory, they think is that many stimuli simultaneously enter our receptors, creating a kind of bottleneck situations through our ears or eyes. Okay, different kinds of stimulus enters our receptors. Moving through the short-term memory system, they enter the selective filter. So it enters our short-term memory system. So short-term memory system, as in, see, there are many things, like if I tell you a phone number, then you will remember it for a while, but to remember it very well, to shift it into your long-term memory, then you will have to memorize it, right? But if I tell you a number like OTP numbers 2341, suppose, then for sometimes you will remember the number. That is your short-term memory. Okay, so moving through the short-term memory system, they enter the selective filter. So after the short-term memory, there is a selective filter, and these stimuli first enter the short-term memory system, then enters the selective filter, and this selective filter allows only one stimulus to pass through for higher levels of processing. Other stimuli are screened out at that moment of time. Thus, we become aware of only that stimulus which gets access through the filter. So, suppose you enter your classroom and then you see that someone is writing in the board and someone is talking, but then your attention goes to your friend who is talking. Okay, so your friend who is talking to another friend of yours, you hear that voice. So all the other stimuli around you, someone writing in the board, someone throwing a piece of paper, it all gets blurred out, and only the voice of your friend who is talking to another friend of yours enters your selective filter and goes to higher levels of processing. Others are screened out. Other stimuli are screened out at that point of time. Okay, now let us talk about the filter attenuation theory. So the filter attenuation theory was developed by Trisman in 1962 by modifying Broadbent's theory. So it is just a modification of the filter theory. This theory proposes that the stimuli not getting access to the selective filter at given moment of time are not completely blocked. The filter only attenuates, that is, weakens their strength. Thus, some stimuli manage to escape through the selective filter to reach higher levels of processing. It is indicated that personally relevant stimuli, that is, one's name in a collective dinner, can be noticed even at a very low level of sound. Such stimuli, even though fairly weak, may also generate response occasionally by slipping through the selective filter. So see, filter attenuation theory is just a modification of your filter theory. Okay, so in filter theory, it was proposed that only one stimuli reaches for the higher levels of processing. Others are screened out in the beginning only. Okay, but according to filter attenuation theory, it is not screened out. Okay, just that other stimuli gets weakened and one stimuli remains strong and it goes to higher levels of processing. Even other stimuli also goes for higher levels of processing, but it gets weakened. So suppose you are sitting at a dinner table, you are talking to your friend, so your friend's voice is the main stimuli which is going for higher levels of processing, but at the corner of the table you hear some name which is very familiar to you. You hear that also. It's faint, but you hear that also. So that also goes for it gets weakened, but that also goes for higher levels of processing, so you will just hear it. Okay, so according to filter attenuation theory, the other stimuli gets weakened, but that doesn't mean that they are screened out. Okay, so this theory is modification of the filter theory. The multimode theory was developed by Johnson and Hines in 1978. This theory believes that attention is a flexible system that allows selection of a stimulus over others at three stages. At stage 1, the sensory representations, example visual images of stimuli, are constructed, and stage 2, the semantic representation, that is names of objects, are constructed, and at stage 3, the sensory and semantic representation enters the consciousness. It is also suggested that more processing requires more mental effort. When the messages are selected on the basis of stage 1 processing, early selection, less mental effort is required than when the selection is based on stage 3 processing, that is late selection. So multimode theory is different from these other two theories. Okay, these two theories are interrelated to each other, but multimode theory is more like a stage theory. Okay, so it has been divided into stages. So according to Johnson and Hines, attention, it is a flexible system and it is divided into 3 stages. So in stage 1, what happens is that we process the visual representations. Okay, visual images of stimuli are constructed. At stage 2, the names of objects. Okay, suppose we are you are talking to your friend, and your friend is showing you something, and pointing out some names, okay, of places and things. Then you will first process the visual images, and then the semantic representation, whatever your friend is saying, the names of the objects and everything. And in stage 3, the sensory and semantic representation enters the consciousness. In the third stage, it gets entered in our consciousness, and it is also suggested that more processing requires more mental effort. So the more information we process, the more mental effort is required. Okay, so this is the stage theory, which is known as the multimode theory by Johnson and Hines, and it was proposed in 1978. So far we have talked about selective attention, theories of selective attention. Now let us talk about sustained attention. So selective attention is mainly concerned with the selection of stimuli, but sustained attention is concerned with concentration. Now I'm talking to you all, I'm teaching you all, you're focusing on what I am saying, and you are listening to me, you're concentrating on the class. Okay, so it is sustained attention. If you are listening to me properly for half an hour, then it is sustained attention. Okay, so it is it refers to our ability to maintain attention on an object or event for longer durations. It is also known as vigilance. Sometimes people have to concentrate on a particular task for many hours. Air traffic controllers and radar readers provide us with good examples of this phenomenon. Okay, so these are some examples. So traffic controllers, then all these people, okay, they do vigilance. Okay, so if you think about the example, imagine it, then you will understand. They have to constantly watch and monitor signals on screens. The occurrence of signals in such situations is usually unpredictable, and errors in detecting signals may be fatal. Hence, a great deal of vigilance is required in those situations. So at that point of time, you will have to have a very good sustained attention. In these kind of jobs, they are actually tested also. Psychological tests also are conducted to see whether they can focus on a particular thing for a longer duration or not, if they are fit for this job of vigilance or not. So all these things are taken into account, and then only they are appointed for such kind of jobs. Okay, so now in the next slide, let us talk about factors influencing sustained attention. So now let us look at factors influencing sustained attention. Several factors can facilitate or inhibit an individual's performance on task of sustained attention. So facilitate as in increase the sustained attention, and inhibit as in decrease individual's performance on task where you have to put a lot of concentration, that is sustained attention. Okay, so now the first thing is sensory modality. So now what is it? Performance is found to be superior when stimuli called signals are auditory than when they are visual. Sensory modality as in different kinds of stimulus which is represented to us. It can be visual, it can be auditory, it can be smell, it can be touch. So it is observed, and according to researchers, it is proven that auditory signals, auditory stimuli are found to be superior when it comes to sustained attention. So suppose if I am showing you a video without an audio, just a video, okay, and I am sending you a voice note, or giving you a lecture, then the lecture or the voice note is going to be superior than the visual thing without the auditory background if I am sending it to you. Okay, so it has been proven that auditory stimuli are superior when it comes to performances. Okay, so if both are combined, then it's a better thing. Now I am recording my voice and also sending you a PPT along with, but suppose if I just send you a PPT and not the voice recording, only the PPT, only the visual representation, then it is not going to be that effective. Okay, so that is one factor for sustained attention. So your attention will be more if there is auditory stimuli. Okay, another one is clarity of stimuli. Okay, so intense and long lasting stimuli facilitate sustained attention and result in better performance. Okay, so now while I am speaking, okay, I am making sure that I am keeping my earphone, the microphone, near to my mouth, okay, so that the voice is clear. Otherwise what will happen is that the voice is going to be faint, and that won't grab your attention. So you won't be it's not that you won't be able to listen to me, you will be able to listen to me, but you won't be able to put a lot of concentration on it. Okay, so intense and long lasting stimuli facilitate sustained attention. So our tone of voice, the way we speak, the tone of voice, the clarity of voice. Okay, if I am not pronouncing the words correctly, if I am chewing some food, keeping my microphone away, then what will happen is that you won't be able to sustain the attention in my class for a long time. Okay, so these things are also important. So it is known as clarity of stimuli. Then comes your temporal uncertainty. This is your third factor. So when stimuli appear at regular intervals of time, they are attended better than when they appear at irregular intervals. Okay, so if you see that when you are playing also, okay. If you are playing cricket or other sports, then there is always certain regular intervals of time, okay, because that way you are going to attend the stimuli better, okay. Randomly, if you are throwing balls at your the batsman, then the batsman won't be able to bat, okay. So in sports and in other activities also, this regular interval stimuli are attended better, okay. If it is irregular, now if you are throwing a ball, your friend is doing something and then you are throwing the ball whenever you want to, irregularly, okay, then it is not going to be attended properly, okay. So now the fourth one is special uncertainty. Stimuli that appear at a fixed place are readily attended, whereas those that appear at random locations are difficult to attend, okay. So now suppose if I am teaching you in the class, okay, so I am moving, like the whole class I am moving from this corner to that corner, here and there, then what will happen is that you will not be able to attend me properly, okay. You will because I will become the stimuli. You are listening to my voice, you are looking at me, so I am the stimuli, external stimuli in this case scenario, okay. So if I am moving from here and there, then what will happen is that you will not be able to concentrate on me properly, okay. So but if I am standing in front of the class, that's why teachers stand in front of the class, right, then I will be at a fixed position and you will be able to attend to me properly, okay. So these are the factors which influence sustained attention. See, attention has several practical implications. The number of objects one can readily attend to in a single glance is used to design the number plates of motorbikes and cars so that the traffic police can easily notice them in the case of traffic rule violations, okay. And not only when it comes to number plates, but your books also, especially when it comes to children's book, they are very colorful and they have a lot of pictures in it. It is because children, they are not very patient, so to sustain their attention, their books are very colorful. So in roads also, if there is a school, then there are signboards, they mark with fluorescent colors in speed breakers also. So it is because to catch your attention, okay. And especially if you take the example of children's book, it's very colorful, okay. So we have to make sure, like there are several factors, okay, which influences sustained attention. So in every aspect of our life, psychology is required, okay. Now even about sustained attention also, to keep one's uh, attention intact, there also we have to use psychology, okay. So that's all for today's class. If you want some extra information or if you have any doubt, you can ask me. Thank you.